for this hat, we're using the all-in-one loom, and I set the loom for 70 pegs. It's a little hard to show the whole thing in there, but I only set it for 70, which means basically if you go over from start over, you can set it, just move this part down to hit about the 30 mark of pegs on one side. But this is, this has already been casted on with the E-wrap cast on. I figured it would save a little time. Most people know at this point how to do the E-wrap cast on. If you don't, I believe I have a video for that as well. Now what we want to do is, I already have stitch markers on here, as you can see, pretty much every other peg. I already placed these on so that what we're doing next is we're going to do the brim, and the brim is going to be done in rib stitch. But what's a little different is we're actually going to use 2 strands of yarn, and we're going to kind of use one, which is this white one, to do our knit in, and then we're going to use this nice pink to do our purling in. So what we're going to do now, is we're going to go ahead and wherever there's a stitch marker on a peg, those are the ones we're going to knit. Wherever there isn't, those are the ones we're going to purl in the opposite color. So what you're going to need to do now is get your slip knot on the new yarn and go ahead and place it on the first peg that's going to be purled. So we're going to zoom in here so you can actually see what we're doing a little more. So this peg is going to be knitted. The ones without the stitch markers are going to be purled. So go ahead and kind of push the loops down to give you more working room. And again, we're going to go ahead and knit this one with the white. Okay, give it a little tug if you need to. Now we're going to go ahead on the second peg and we're going to place our new yarn. At this time, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to knit this over at this time, because our first row of doing this, so we're just going to knit this over for right now. But when we get to the next set, we'll then purl. So now what you're going to do is you're basically going to take the white and go over to the next peg that you're going to knit, keeping the yarn behind the peg before. This is working yarn in back. Bring it over to the front of the next peg that's going to be knitted. And knit it. Then you're going to go ahead, grab your white, or your pink, sorry. And when you're looking at your pink coming off of that one peg, you still want to keep the working yarn in back. So you're going to lay the white down and then come over and bring this in front. And go ahead and purl this peg. Put the working yarn to the back there out of your way. Go ahead again and grab the white yarn. Now what you have to do is you have to be careful because this will kind of tangle up a little bit, so just keep an eye on how your yarn is coming out. You may need to take a moment to kind of unmix the skeins because sometimes they'll crisscross. So you just want to take every so often and just check, and if you can, just kind of move them around so that the yarn doesn't become tangled. So again, we're looking at the peg. This one needs to be knitted. We're making sure our white yarn is behind that peg. Bring it in front to knit. Knit over. Again, grab your pink. Keeping track of where the white yarn is, you want to kind of tuck that down, bring this one in front to do your purling. And this is what's good about having stitch markers as you're working, because it'll be easier to remember. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to continue this process of where you're going to knit where there's stitch markers and purl where there isn't. And you're going to do this, oh, I got a stain on this thing, sorry about that. It's an older cloth I'm using. But you're going to do this process painting and working your way around, alternating these 2 colors, one being done in knit, one being done in purl, for this many rows right here. And then that'll be the brim of the hat. After completing 5 rows, you're going to see your project starting to peek through a little bit of the loom, and as you can see, we got this cute little alternating of the knit and the purling and the different colors coming through for our brim. For the next part, we're going to switch it over and we're going to attach the white to the pink because I want to do a pink band around before we move on to the next color I want to use. So all you have to do is simply cut the white and tie it to the pink. You'll leave yourself a little bit of a tail, cut the white, and then go ahead and where you have your pink loom, or pink yarn, sorry, you're just going to go ahead and tie that to it. And I usually double knot everything. Now when we work it, we're going to actually just be working the pink yarn around. Now since I don't need the stitch markers anymore for right now, I'm going to go ahead really quickly and I'm going to go ahead and remove these so they don't distract you from what we're going to do next. The stitch markers are all removed. We'll be using them possibly later on as well, so make sure you keep them nearby. Now again, we just have our pink yarn and we're going to do what's called the half stitch. What this requires is for me to wrap the pegs in around until I have 4 loops on each peg. And then you take the bottom 2 loops over the top. So I'm going to go ahead right now and go and wrap this loom 3 more times so that I can have those 4 loops, and then I'll come back for the next step. Now I'm working on my 3rd time going around so that I can have the 4 loops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of work it 1 peg at a time because it's a little easier just to keep your yarn not too tight. Now again, this first peg, as you see, has the 4 loops because the first loop was in that white that we did. So go ahead and take the bottom 2 loops up and over the top 2 loops. And then you're going to work your way over to the next peg. You can wrap a couple at a time. Keep your yarn, when you're wrapping, try to be gentle because if you pull too tight, it's going to make it harder to get these loops over. And I apologize for the camera getting out of focus there. Okay, so again, on the second peg, you got the top 2 loops, you got the bottom 2 loops. Go ahead and take the bottom 2 up and over the top. And the same with the third one. As long as it's got 4 loops, take the bottom 2 up and over the top. So you're going to continue this half stitch where again you wrap until you make sure you have 4 loops on a peg, and then knit the bottom 2 loops over the top and continue this for that many rows. And then we'll come back to the next part. Once you complete 5 rows of the half stitch, your project should start to work through a little more at the bottom. We can see that we're getting some cuteness through. I do know that obviously when you did the half stitch that it probably was a little tough in places, and I apologize for that. But now what we want to do is we still have our 2 loops on our pegs, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our working pink yarn and we're just going to quickly go around and we're going to E-wrap knit, and we're going to take the bottom 2 loops over the top before we start with the next color. So again, all you're going to do is you're going to wrap just a simple E-wrap knit, and then you're going to go through and go and take these bottom 2 loops up and over the top one. So go ahead and do that all the way around the loom, and then we will come back for the next part. Now for this part, we've already went around and we did our just simple knit over of that double loop, and we've got our pink. And now what I want to do is I want to do similar to what we did here at the beginning, except this time we're just going to keep it as an E-wrap knit, and we're going to alternate between this pink color and then we're going to add in our new color, which is, hang on one second, which we're going to add in our other color, which I'm going to try to do a close-up so you can see the yarn. Let me see if I can get it where you can see the colors. It's got a lot of different sheens to it. I really wish I could remember what the color of this was, but again, it's got a little bit of blue, it's got a little bit of like a brown in there and the green. So we're going to use this, and like I said, what we're going to do this time is we're going to do similar to what we did at the beginning, except this time we're just going to E-wrap knit, and we're going to alternate between using the pink and using this variegated yarn. So go ahead and create your slip knot. And again, we're going to end up, doing the E-wrap knit. So we're going to knit the first one, knit it over here, and go ahead and drop the new yarn onto the second peg. You can choose if you want, oops, I just lost my slip knot. You can choose if you want to reposition the stitch markers, if you think you're going to get confused by what color goes where. But with using two different ones and just doing the E-wrap, I think you'll have a better chance of remembering. So we're just going to add a second color on there. Go ahead and knit that over. Now remember, we're going to alternate these two colors. So you're going to find your two strands in the back here. Get a chance to focus. Okay, and then all you got to do is you're just going to alternate. So I did a pink on this one, and then we did the new one, so now we got to go in the back and come over and just wrap the third peg in our pink. And knit over, and go ahead and grab our second color. Oops. Come here. And wrap the fourth peg in that color. So this is all you're going to be doing as you work around, is you're going to just be alternating the E-wrap knit with the different colors. So you're just going to go ahead and continue that pattern where one's in pink, one's in the other color, one's in pink, one's in the other color that you choose. And just going to keep doing that around in the loom until you do that many rows. And then we'll come back and we will do the next part. After completing 6 rows of alternating back and forth between the pink and the variegated yarn, you'll start to see your project come through a little more. As you can see right up here, that's what we just did. Our brim, our pink border, and then the two colors. And now what I want to do is I want to switch back to the all white to use for the rest of the hat. Excuse me, I didn't have a lot of the pink and the variegated to continue on with those colors, and I thought it'd be a really nice addition to go back to the white like we used at the beginning. So you're going to end up needing to, attach this back on, and you're going to need to cut these two onto your white, or tie them onto your white when you go to put it back on. So the first thing I want to do is create a slip knot, and go ahead and place that on the first peg. And I want you to go ahead and knit that one peg over to lock the white into place. Just give it a little tug. And now what you want to do, is take these two colors that are extra, and you want to tie them to the white so we can use them all at once. Make sure you get the working part of the white, not the little tail that's right here. So you can move that off to your side. Go ahead and cut yourself a tail. You can do both at once, so just cut, leaving yourself enough room to tie them. Then go ahead and tie them to the white that we're going to use. You should be able to do it both at once. Ooh, sorry, I got a little tangled up in my yarn there. Okay. Give it a little snug tie. Go ahead and do it twice. I usually like to make sure that it's secure. Okay, and now you will just be working with your white yarn. So go ahead and do an E-wrap row just to lock the white in, and then we'll come back and discuss what we're going to do next. So again, do 1 row of E-wrap knit. Now we're going to add the holes that we need for the pigtails to come through. Again, this is after you've done the 15 rows of E-wrap knit. Now it's time to bind off pegs. Now as you can see, I have 7 stitch markers to show me on each side where I want to place the holes. This should be about in the middle of the hat for each side where the ears would be. And what I had to do is I went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pegs, and then I dropped seven stitch markers in the spot that I wanted. And then again, you can easily mimic it on the other side for the other hole that you're going to need for the other pigtail to come out through. So I'm going to show you how we're going to bind them off. So what I'm going to do first, and I'm just going to simply E-wrap knit these all the way until I get to this peg, and then we'll do something a little different there. So I'm just going to simply, make sure I got the yarn right, I'm going to simply just do E-wrap all the way over. Okay, so now we're at the part where we need to bind off these pegs, again, to create the hole that we want in the project. So, excuse me, what you're going to do with your working yarn, go ahead and knit the next peg. It's almost like when we do a knit bind off, or even like a crochet bind off. So we wrapped it, we're going to knit it over, then we're going to move it over. Knit it over. This time we're going to give it one wrap, just to make it easier to move over. Knit over. Oops, let's not lose them yet. Move over. Again, go ahead, knit over. Wrap once. Move over. So again, oops, we're knitting over. Now I know these stitch markers are kind of big here, but knit over, wrap once, knit over again, move over. Knit over, wrap once, knit over, move over. Again, we're going to try our last peg here. So we knit over, wrap once, knit over again, move it over to our last peg, knit over, wrap once, and then move it over to the peg just beside that. And go ahead and knit that over just to lock it in place. So again, that bound off those 7 pegs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pegs are bound off. Once you're done with that, you can easily just go ahead and remove your stitch markers, because you are done with them for the side and you will not need them again. So you can just go ahead and remove them off the loom. Now what you're going to do now is you're going to do the E-wrap knit till you get all the way over to the other side, and do the same process on those pegs to create the hole over there, and then continue on E-wrapping until you get back to the starting row, and then we're going to do something to show. I'm going to show you how you're going to end up closing off that hole. So go. After doing that, we'll go back to our starting point, and as you can see, if you look through this way, you can see that we got our gap. That's going to be for our pigtail to come through. And now what we need to do is we need to kind of continue a row to close off where these pegs are empty. And what I chose to do is the figure 8 stitch. And we'll be able to continue the figure 8 stitch over these pegs because it'll be similar to doing the figure 8 cast on for the pegs that are empty. So if you remember what the figure 8 stitch is, which is a stitch I do use a lot, you're just going to need to, bring your peg out, wrap, knit over. So again, if you look at it from the side, you're coming out, over behind, around, behind this one, and up front and around. And I got a little blurry just because I'm zoomed in a little bit, and then just go ahead and knit them over. Okay, now as we get to the pegs that are needing to be casted on again, we're just going to simply continue doing the figure 8 stitch, but we're only going to be able to knit over certain ones, because you're just basically working your way over, still doing the same pattern, it's just you're not going to be able to knit both over at once. So you just work your way around. And this helps close off those pegs so that the hole will be complete. See, we almost got it bound off again. So you can see what I'm doing. Even on the empty peg, you do the same figure 8 that you've been doing until you get those pegs casted on. Now go ahead and continue the figure 8 stitch all the way around the loom, doing the same thing on the other side. As you can see, now this bind off that we did, come this way, now our hole is closed off. That will be our hole for our ponytail to come through, or our pigtail, sorry, to come through. So go ahead and continue doing the figure 8 stitch all the way around the loom, casting on the empty pegs on the other side, and then continue doing the figure 8 for this many rows until we get ready to get closer to the part where we're casting off the hat. After completing those two parts, and you've already done your last 3 rows of E-wrap knit, now it's time to take the project off the loom. We're going to do the drawstring cast on. There's 2 different ways you can do it. You can use your working yarn and do it through the loops, or you can use 2 strands of yarn, which I'm actually going to do this time. And I'm going to leave a tail on the working yarn. I usually leave a pretty long tail, almost a foot, and we're going to cut that off. Then we're going to grab that same yarn and we're going to cut another strand of yarn to use to go around. I'm just going around the loom a couple times to make sure I get enough yarn. You're going to do probably 3 to 4 feet or whatever, just to make sure you have enough. It might even be too much. But we wrap it around a couple times of the pegs just to get an idea, and then we just snip it. And this will be our working yarn. Excuse me. And then what you're going to do is you're going to work the working yarn through the loops. And remember, when you work this, you want to keep part of it with the working yarn that you had before. You're going to hold those as you work this through the loops. And that's all you're going to do is work your way around, pulling that yarn through. Again, don't pull it all the way through, otherwise you'll lose your tail here that you need for at the end. Excuse me. So go ahead. See, so again, I'm just working it through the loops. I'll make sure it's in that one. We're just working it through. You see right here, we're working it through this part just by simply pulling it through, holding on to the part here so that the yarn doesn't go all the way through. So go ahead and keep doing this all the way around the loom until you get back over to the ending part, and then we're on the last couple here that we have to bind off or loop our yarn through before taking this hat off the loom. And then, like I said, once you get to the end, just gently lift off the loops, off the pegs. And there should be one more at the beginning. And then remove your loom. Now typically when we bind off, we end up working it from the inside, so you're going to turn it inside out. And then you're going to find your strands. And you're going to gently pull. Until you get it closed off. keep in mind I'm at a different angle, so it's a little hard for me to see if it's getting fully bound off. So you just gotta bear with me. Don't pull too hard because you could break the string and then you'll have nothing to pull, and there goes your project. So you see when you get to as closed off as you can do it. Go ahead and tie it together. Don't force it any more closed than you have to be. Just tie it because we can work it more closed in a second. I'm just going to go get my crochet hook. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to rotate over to the opposite side to help close this off even more by finding a loop if we can. Bringing the yarn through. Oh, it's going to fight me today, I just know it. This will help close off the project even more. Go ahead and retie it. And you're just going to kind of do this, just basically get that hole as closed off as you can, obviously. And you can kind of look and work your way around and see where you can get another loop. Grab your yarn, pull it through, and just kind of work your way around until you get the hole as closed off as you can. And that's what I'm going to do until I get it closed off. And then we just have to turn it back inside out once you get it all done. I'm just going to leave it for like that. I'll go back through and I will finish doing what I'm doing now just to close it off. But to show you the finished product, let's turn it back the right way. Okay, and you can go ahead and any stragglers you have on the inside you can weave them in to hide them. Same with, with any ending ones. And then if you look, you can line up your hat and you've got your two openings for your pigtails, and they should be pretty lined up if you look at it from this way. These are where our pigtail holes are. So go ahead, and I hope you enjoy this pattern. Like I said, weave in the ends, and if you don't want the holes, obviously you don't need to do them, and you can just make this as a simple hat. If you don't want the holes up as high, just incorporate doing that step a little further down, and then continue like your E-wrap rows if you need to, but you can adjust it to where you want that hole is just by deciding to do it maybe in here instead of up towards the top. It really depends on where you want the pigtails to come out of. So I hope you like this, and have a great day, everyone.